Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day and welcome to the 3-tip series. Hi everyone, my name is Darren, a first year medical student at Monash University here in Melbourne, Australia. What's your full name? Oh, my bad. We've just been practicing histories for the past week in med school, so that kind of getting the name, getting the occupation has been stuck in my head a little bit. Anyway, thank you guys so much for 400 subscribers. I really appreciate it, and we're getting really close to that 500 subscriber milestone, and I'll be doing a Q&A then, so leave any questions you have in the comments below. So I decided to start this 3-tip series because I realized that a lot of the advice that I wanted to share with you guys wasn't really specific to one SAC, but sort of branched over the subject as a whole. So I decided to really sit down and think about the 3 most useful and the 3 most important tips for each of the 7 subjects that I did, which I will be sharing with you guys through this series. So today's one is going to be the almighty English, and because it's the first in its series and English is such an important subject, I have a bonus tip at the end, so please stay tuned for that. So just a quick TLDR, my 3 tips are 1, be straightforward with your language, 2, be extremely logical in your analysis, and 3, be very, very obsessive with your timing. The timestamps to those 3 and the bonus tip are in the description box below. Well, without further ado, let's get started. Firstly, use straightforward language. I remember coming into year 12 English, I thought that vocab would be a big deal. I thought I really had to build on my vocab bank and really use a lot of fancy words to do well. Well, this isn't the case for 2 reasons. One is that it's not a good idea to intentionally build up your vocab bank with no real direction. It's better that as you learn the novel, as you learn the plays, your teacher will give you words to use. They will use words that you'll feel impressed with and are actually accurate to the topic. And also, as you write essays, you'll develop words and vocab that is relevant to the novel you're studying, rather than sort of aimlessly finding big words. So for example, we were studying The Women of Troy, which is a really sad play. So we learned words like enfeebled, which means just like very weak. Words like impuissance, which means very helpless, and depraved. So those words like that, you use them that are relevant to your play, your novel, whatever. And developing that is very important, but just grabbing random words that sound very good is not very helpful. And secondly, the second reason why vocab isn't that big of a deal, because it's not really what the examiners are looking for, and it's not what your teacher is looking for. The exam and English VCE subject is not asking you to see how many big words you know, and it's really annoying when people use really strange words and strange phrases that sound very complex and sound very philosophical, but like you sort of like a scratching your brain moment because you don't really understand what it means. What's really important is to use straightforward language that cuts to the point and is able to explain your complex ideas. So the crux of English is to have very complex, or at least like semi-complex ideas that have layers to them, and then using language to explain it in a coherent way. So using language that is understandable to unpack these complex ideas. I'll share some examples of my work so you guys can get a better idea of this.
This is a piece I wrote relatively early on before I grasped the importance of being concise and using simpler language. Please look at the part I've indicated with the green lines and also the red lines as well. So the phrase current detesting sounds like it means something, but it's a bit difficult to understand. A simpler word like hatred would do the job better while conveying the same meaning. But later on, you see most illustrative of war's eroding of religious belief. This sentence sounds intelligent, but it's unnecessarily wordy. A more clear phrasing would be, another instance which reveals how much war erodes religious belief is. Finally, one thing to watch out for is using synonyms in one sentence. So for example, describing Agamemnon as sacrilegious and licentious together would be unnecessary. It's better to find an adjective that describes something different about the person and to save your synonym for later on in the essay.
My second tip is to be extremely logical in your analysis. Now this is true for text response and for comparative, but particularly for APA or AA, where you analyze an argument. And the reason why you have to have such clear reasoning in this section is for 2 reasons. The first reason is that everyone can have different interpretations in this part of the exam. So in last exam, there was a picture of a drone in the ground, and one of my friends mentioned that it sort of looked like a crime scene, and he mentioned that in his essay. And that really stuck with me because I didn't realize that, and it's not wrong and it's not right to have like recognized it or not. What really matters is how you justify it. So my friend was talking about how it was sort of dug in the ground and it was blurry in the background and the person was walking over and it was sort of like a framing upwards shot. And he said that that was why he thought it was a crime scene. And as long as you justify it very logically and carefully, then you'll be rewarded with the marks. And the second reason why being logical is so important here is that that's really where you earn your marks and separate yourself from everyone else. So the APA section is the most sat exam out of any subject, out of any exam. And my teacher told me that and I thought it was pretty cool. Because English is by far the most popular subject, and out of the three sections, the section C is the one section that everyone has to sit and everyone does the same exam for. Anyway, so the reason why you have to be so logical is because you can give a piece of article to your parents, to your siblings, anyone who doesn't even study English, and they can tell you when stuff is impactful. They can tell you that, oh, these words like really touch my heart, or these rhetorical questions really cause me to like reflect on my own actions. But you have to really analyze the why, and that is the thing that separates sort of English students and English students who do well from everyone else. You have to analyze that. Is it the alliteration here? Is it the connotations of the language? Is it the imagery that's being brought to life? What is exactly making it impactful? And you have to be very logical in analyzing what makes it impactful and use like your brain and just use common sense to really think about it. And that also comes with practice. And as long as you do that, you will ace not only the APA, but that logic will serve you well for the entirety of English.
Here is a Section C essay I completed under time conditions. The author, Price, is writing about the merits of digital libraries and how the school should move towards digital libraries. But he begins by giving this picture of a physical library. Anyone reading could say that this is an acknowledgement that Price does like physical libraries. But as English students, we have to logically think about why this particular phrasing of endless corridors, creaking wooden floors is so effective. Here it's because of the homely imagery it creates. And you can go even deeper analytically and think about why he's done this at the start of the piece. And that's because it frames his entire argument of digital libraries being good, not as the views of someone who's incredibly biased, but instead of someone who actually loved physical libraries, but now has reached the almost bittersweet recognition that times are changing.
Thirdly, be obsessive with your timing. English has that infamous 3-hour 3-essay exam at the end of the year. I think of it as a rite of passage because of how iconic it is. And this idea of having very clear timings for each paragraph is important for your SACs as well. But what I'm really focusing on here is the exam because that's where you'll really be time pressured. For me, I split my time like this. I spent 50 minutes on the APA first. I spent an hour on my Section A text response, and then an hour 10 minutes on my comparative. And even within that, I split it even further. So with my APA, I don't really have a strict how many body paragraphs I do. Sometimes I do 4, sometimes I do 5, sometimes I even did 6. And depending on how many paragraphs I did, I'll work out, okay, is that 7 minutes a paragraph? Is that 8 minutes a paragraph? And I'd stick very, very heavily to that. And I'll be able to time myself within the paragraph as well. And this is so crucial, particularly for the end of your exam, because you can't afford to lag behind. Each section is weighted equally, and so you can't spend more time on one section than you need to, and then that has a drop-on effect on the rest of your sections. And because it's such a long exam as well, one hitch will be really hard to recover from, which is why it's so important to be obsessive and really bring in a watch and follow that watch almost to a perfectionist scale. Additionally, the 3 sections are marked independently, so just because you did well in one, that examiner won't have a good impression of you when they're marking your next one, because it'll be a different examiner marking your next section. And you might be asking, if they're marked equally, why did I spend sort of more time on my comparative, less time on my APA? And the reason for that is because to get them to that sort of same standard, I knew I had to spend more time on the comparative, and I could afford to spend less time on my APA. Because I found comparative quite hard to plan for, because if the topic changed a bit, you had to manipulate your comparisons of the two texts as well, which is more difficult than if it was a single text. And with APA, it's kind of the same every time. Nothing really changes each time you do it. You just get down the paragraphs, get down the techniques, which is why even though they're marked equally, even though they're marked independently, I spent more time on section C. And it's important for you two to work out what works best for you, which sections are you most confident in, so that you can maximize your scores in each of the 3 sections. So, bonus tip, plans. Plans are so crucial to doing well, because you just don't have time to write essays for every single possible topic that you might think of. And also, when the topics are slightly different but on the same theme, it's not really worth it to write a completely new essay for them. But planning helps you avoid that problem and helps you adapt to the nuances of each question, and also helps you think about what you would write for a potentially completely new topic, and to do that in sort of a concise way and not having to spend a lot of time on it, because there are so many possible topics that could come up on the day. I also think it's worth it to make plans with friends and with other people who have different perspectives and original ideas to help enrich your database. I actually made my plans with a good friend of mine who also scored a 50 in English, so you can have a look at those plans on your screen now.
I did a ton of these plans with my friend, and you can see how concise it is because we were so familiar with the film and with the novel. All we needed was a couple words or even just the name of a character to know which moment we'd be using for that particular paragraph.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it and you've liked the beginning of this 3-tip series. If you haven't yet, please like, comment and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Good luck for the last couple of weeks of term, and I look forward to seeing you all next time.